3PNR with Adam R. Welcome to 3PNR. I'm your host, Adam R. And joining me for this episode is Eric McCants, Investigative Sergeant of Narcotics and SWAT team member. Eric, how you doing, sir?
I'm fine, sir. How you doing?
Doing well. Your job is not the job for the average Joe. That's a tough job.
Yeah, it can be pretty rough at times.
Yeah, that's going to wear on you a bit. It's game time for you. Every time you step out, it's game time, right?
Yes, sir. So you always got to keep your head on a swivel. You just never know.
So let's talk about this. Let's start with this. What put Eric on the path of law enforcement?
Honestly, like I said, I went off to college when I was 17, and I went to school for business management. Basically, like I said, I've been training martial arts for about 12, 13 years, and my cousin had a karate school, and basically, like I say, he was teaching me the ropes of karate and the aspect of, building the business. And I went up to school to eventually, help him with the business. But like I said, I was 17 years old. So eventually I started playing around, ended up getting kicked out of school because, I wasn't going to class, just doing things I wasn't supposed to be doing. And then I started working at a store called Kroger. And then, like I say, my mother was on my back saying that, well, you need to get back in school. So I just happened to be working at Kroger. There was an officer there working special duty. He was telling another guy, you should join the police academy because you'll be a good job. I was like, he talked to me about it. And I was like, well, my mother was bothering me. So I said, what the heck? I'll try it out. So eventually I went to the police academy, signed up, went through it, fell in love, and here I am today.
Yeah. So, and I mean, from starting in the academy, work your way to SWAT. That's, coach, give me the ball. That's that kind of attitude.
Oh, yeah. Well, basically, like I said, I went to this new agency in 2017. My sheriff won the election. He brought me over. And most of the guys, they came from a different agency. And basically, like I said, they was all on the SWAT team. They were all the shit guys. They did this and that. And I just made a site that I wanted to be on the SWAT team. At the time, I was about 350 pounds. I've always been a pretty big guy. And based on the SWAT team, you have to have certain qualifications, and they want you to run long distance and all that stuff. Me, I never been a long distance runner. I don't like running like that, but I had to learn how to do it. So eventually, like I said, I got myself in shape, lost about 50 pounds, was able to get on the SWAT team. Like I've been enjoying it ever since. Like I say, just the brotherhood that you have on the SWAT team, having people behind your back that you can trust, that you'll go through any room with, is just something I always enjoyed. And I say joining the SWAT team has been one of the best decisions I made.
Yeah, I mean that's when I think of SWAT team, man. That's varsity football. It's big league, right? You got to be ready to play that. And
you got to keep your head on. Like I say, when they call you, you got to be ready to go. You can't just make up excuses. I say it's your time to go, and you got to be always mentally ready to do what you need to do to handle that situation.
Yeah, they're calling you guys in. It's not because it's some basic incident that's taking place. That's what I say to people a lot. There's this whole defund the police thing, and I try to make it clear to them. It's people like Eric McCants. When there's a problem coming up, they call him and the team in because I promised a guy down the road who's a dentist isn't going to want to deal with it. What you deal with, most people wouldn't even consider getting near it. It's necessary for people like yourself. So for you moving forward, tell me about getting involved with us. So you're in the police department, you get the SWAT. Tell me about the first couple of years in. How'd that go?
Well, the first couple of years in, like I said, I joined out straight out the academy, and my current sheriff was actually my first chief, and he brought me in. I was 20 years old. I enjoyed working. Like I said, I was always one of those proactive workers. And basically, like I said, he put me in the housing division, and he told me and my partner, he said, go take control of the housing division. And basically, in the area we're working in, there's kind of had a lot of problems with, people trying to fight officers, people selling drugs and stuff. And so basically, he let us loose. And, me being 20, I took that literally. I said, man, if you broke the law, you was going to jail. I said, don't get me wrong, we didn't break the rules, but we were running and gunning after everybody. That's just how we were. And then eventually, like I say, he told me, y'all need to slow it down. I said, y'all got control of the area. You can, tone it down a little bit. But, I was still in that mindset. I was 20. I like, shit, I got to go. I got to give it to these people. They got to go to jail. They commit crimes. And eventually, like I say, man, just with some other things, getting in trouble, speeding as I do sometimes, and just different things, eventually he had to part ways with me. And basically what he told me was, like I say, he's always been one of my mentors. He said, you're going to be a good officer one day, but you need to grow up. And like I said, man, my social life was kind of interfering with my work life, and things like that start running over. And he said, basically, it was just becoming a bad look. So we parted ways. And like I said, my first year and a half, that's basically what it was. Like the first year I was running the gun, putting people in jail. And like I said, we did positive work. I said, we got the area under control they wanted us to do, but it took me a minute to, draw back. Like I said, I was young. I said, you told me gave me a task, I'm gonna stick to it. And then eventually, like, okay, man, you know, you got to calm down right now. Hopefully, this will, you know, get you better. He said, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and let you resign. He said, give yourself a couple of years to grow up and mature, and then you come back. And that's basically how that happened with my first year and a half with law enforcement.
That's a good mentor, right?
Yes, sir.
That's
Yes,
a good thing. Yeah. I mean, he recognized that you weren't there maturity wise, and he said, take some time, come back when you're ready. And you did. And you're progressing through it. I mean, that's solid advice, where most people like just tough it up and just try to do better. Like, he recognized that. That's a very good thing.
So yes, sir. I said my sheriff's always been a positive influence in my life. Like I say, he's actually my instructor in the academy, and he left halfway to become the chief of that police department. And then when he left, he called me. He's like, okay, man, you know, you want to get a job? He put me on the job, and he was like, okay, well, I see you got a little issues. You need to grow up a little bit. Then he told me to resign. And then after that, went to another agency for a couple of years. Then he called me up. He's like, hey, man, we got a position, because he started working at the Board of Education. And he already knew how I was. You know, I'm not the biggest fan of working around kids, because kids, it takes a special person that has patience to work with them. But he brought me over there. I worked with kids for about a year and a half, get that experience, learn that basically officer discretion, that, you know, everybody doesn't deserve to go to jail. Everybody doesn't deserve to be punished. Some people just got to be taught to. You got to handle them a certain way. And I worked there. Told me to go get my, you know, college degrees. He said, because you're going to need it. He said, it's not going to make you a better officer, but it's going to give you more tools in your bag. I did that, got my bachelor's and master's, and here I am today.
You know, that's needed more. Mentors like that I can't express to you how big a deal that is. Just to hear that, that's impressive. And the fact that you did it, you raised up and did it. I mean, it's a zero excuses scenario. I think you got lucky. You had a great mentor, and your outcome's really good. You're working a job that most people can't handle. That's needed, might I add. Yeah, I think there needs to be more mentorship like that out there.
Yeah, like I said, my sheriff's been he's Alfonso Williams. He works down here in Burke County, and like I said, man, he's always been one of those people that can get a good job. He's always been efficient at his job. I say he's not a nitpicker, but he likes things a certain way, but he knows how the jobs go. And even recently, like I say, before that, he came to the agency, you know, people weren't too big on college education and law enforcement, but he's been pushing that hard. And right now, we're like at 33% of our agency. He's trying to get more people to join. And like I say, he's always talking to anybody. He'll give you solid advice if you need something. And like I say, he's been very successful in his career. And like I say, I try to, you know, model my career kind of after his. Like I said, if I need advice for certain things, I'll always go to him and talk to him about certain things, because, I mean, he's been there and done that. And he's going to always lead you in the right path, even if that's not at his agency. If, you know, some people, you know, they give you advice and they're going to tell you to stay. He's one of the people. He said, if you can't grow here, I said, you got to spread your wings. He always told me that. He said, man, you got your bachelor's degree and master's degree. He said, don't get locked down in the local agency that you already been at. He said, you know, try to go out, spread out, go to different agencies, see what else you can get going for yourself instead of being in the same agency, unless that's something you truly want to do.
Huh. The more I hear about this guy, the more I'm impressed, man. I mean, you're a very fortunate individual, how that guy in your camp. That's a big deal.
Yes, sir, yeah.
So all right, so let's talk about SWAT. What are some situations what were the more, I don't know, let's say the scarier side of it, things that you were involved with?
Well, honestly, like I said, man, I work in a rural county. It's about 835 square miles, but it's only about 20,000 people. And like I said, we might get activated maybe 2 or 3 times a year. But like I said, that's why our team is a part-time team. Basically, like I said, we're on the call or on duty when they need it. And honestly, like I said, we had a couple of situations where we go out there, it might be a standoff. But in most situations, people are just going to come out. Like I said, you might have to give them a couple hours or get their mind right, whatever. But like I said, we haven't had that instance where we had to full throttle. And I mean, knock on wood that we don't have to do that. But basically, like I said, we're handling the SWAT for the surrounding counties, because there are other small counties too with limited, you know, resources. So we handle that. But as far as handling those type of situations, we haven't had it down here in Burke County. I'm thankful for that. But our neighboring agency, Richard County, which is like a bigger agency, they have about 250,000 people that live in the county. They have a lot more crime just because of more people. They have a little bit different call volume. And like I said, this SWAT team might get activated maybe once a month or every other month. And like I said, they have real deal situations that they have dealt with already. But they have to, you know, take people's lives or, you know, forcibly get somebody out of the house.
Yeah, I mean, no matter how you look at it too, you never, especially with SWAT, if you're being called in, it's a situation that's you know, high tension. And when I can't beat on it enough, but I constantly hear people say things, or not people, it's on social media. And they're saying things like, oh, we got to defund the police and we got to have them better regulated. But, and I've had these conversations with some of these people, right? I've spoken to some and said, and I asked them, like, well, let me ask you, if someone's in your neighborhood and they got weapons and there's a big issue going on, who are you going to call? And I promise it's not your neighbors and you're not going to deal with it. There needs to be this network of people who could expand to every inch of the nation. And that's law enforcement in short,
Yes, sir.
So when I hear this defund the police thing, and then I think about like scenarios like where SWAT gets involved, who, again, I have to ask, who do they think's going to deal with that? It's not going to, I promise the neighbors aren't going to take up arms against it. So now you're an investigative sergeant with narcotics.
Yes, sir.
What's the day-to-day on that?
Basically, day-to-day is, man, you'll get some intel from either the community or from other officers, about individuals that might be selling drugs in your area. And basically what you do, man, you're going out there and you're doing surveillance. You want to watch this person. First, you want to, verify if they are selling drugs. 2, you want to catch somebody leaving there, maybe develop somebody, that can help you out. And like I say, you just want to constantly see what they're doing. Like I said, man, drugs is a big issue. Some people don't see it as, but I say, if you get to talk to a mother or father who lost their child to overdose or something like that, or lost their child to violence over drugs, you understand how big of a problem it is. And like I say, it's not going anywhere. I mean, it's one of the biggest industries in America right now. It's just illegal drugs. It's just how it is. I mean, people, they like that euphoria of getting high, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like I say, from the day to day for us, like I say, man, you might get a person that you need to, target, develop, your probable cause or whatever. If you're going to do a search warrant or you're going to do a vehicle takedown. And like I say, you create an action plan, you do for what you do. And like I say, sometimes these cases might take a week. Sometimes these cases might take 6 months to a year. It just depends on how big the case is, how far it reaches. Like I say, you might be in a little small city, county or whatever, and that might reach all the way to Texas or to California from where the drugs are coming from. And like I said, basically what you're doing is connecting the dot, see if you can get, leads to that other area. And like I say, basically what we want to do is, we want to get the small fish out, take us to the big fish. And then eventually you want to go ahead and get the big fish out. But like I said, man, just seeing how people are with these pills and fentanyl and all that stuff is kind of crazy because, I mean, people are overdosing on this stuff daily. And certain people are like, okay, well, it's not that big. It's a drug. It's their choice. But once again, like I say, until you see that parent coming around screaming or that child that doesn't have their mother or father because they overdose, then you don't think it's a problem. And like I say, most people are not affected by things until it happens to them. And they feel like, well, I don't do drugs and it's not my problem. But it's a really big issue that we're facing.
Yeah, especially the violence that comes from it too, right? Because you got to consider some people, there's two sides of that coin, right? There's a guy who's selling it and he's gonna obviously want his territory covered and or people owe him money. And then the other side, you have the addict who's going to be desperate and do just about whatever it takes to get the next fix, whether it be rob someone, break in a house or armed robbery. I mean, there's a list that goes with that. And you're at the center of it. It's a tough one. I mean, that's why I said when I first spoke to you, your job's tough, man. Like that.
Yeah.
That's not something most people wake up every day and say, look, man, I guess I'm going to deal with this today. I mean, you're pushed for it.
Yeah. There's a lot of violence around just narcotic sales and all that. From what like I said, man, just people trying to rip off the competition, take them out and all that. A lot of times, people might be selling drugs to another person. They think they're cool. And that person might be trying to rip them off. And like I said, you got the addicts who to feed their habit, they'll go break into people's cars, steal things from people's houses and all that stuff. It's just a load of violence around it. And like some people, they don't see it. They don't think it's so. But like I said, you might just think it might have been a simple shooting or simple murder that happened in your area. You think, well, okay, it's just nothing to it. But if you get to the backstory, well, this person might have been ripped off from a drug deal, or they feel like they were shorted or being disrespected, or someone stepping on their property or their territory as far as selling drugs, and then the violence comes. So, man, it's like I say, the drug game is very crazy, and people just don't see it like that. They like I say, a lot of people, if it doesn't affect them or they're not directly touched by it, they just don't understand how big and how deep it runs.
Yeah, I mean, and you consider this, man. I mean, it's everywhere. Drugs there's this misconception that drug problems are specifically for the inner cities. It's everywhere. One of my best friends died of drugs. He overdosed in 2001, a long time ago. And he got the pills he got through another friend whom he got from another person. At the end of the story, these pills came from a source in some other part of Florida, which as a higher up. So it's people like you that have to get involved to help track down that bigger person and take them down, or else more people are going to be victims to this narcotic. It's a scary business.
Yeah. Yes, sir. And a lot of people think just when you live in a small city, a lot of things are going on. I can guarantee you narcotics are either being sold there or they're coming through there. It's just how it is. I mean, people get hooked on narcotics from one or the other, or they just want the high, or they've been injured and they get hooked on it. But like I said, narcotics are everywhere. And people just got to get out of the mindset, well, it's not happening here. You might not see it. And that's why I tell you, a lot of people, you go to these different neighborhoods where there's no crime or whatever, and then you do a search warrant, you find all these drugs. People might not see it, but you got to understand it's all the way around. You always got to be, vigilant to it because you just never know what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, not to laugh at it, but these you ever watch these TV shows? Like all right, an example. I like The Blacklist. I like it a lot. It's a good show. Dialogue wise anyway. But there's these parts where you see they have their SRT or their SWAT team. They got their gear on, and then there's the two main people with no vest on, no helmet on, and they're leading this team, and it makes me nuts. All right, and I bring this point up because I wonder how many people watch these shows and think, oh well, it's a cake job, and they don't realize the stress that's involved in it. I mean, for you when you're on site, the tension and the buildup for it. So, what's it like for you upon getting called in?
Yeah, like even for us when we do a narcotics search warrant, I mean, for one, definitely if you're over it, you got to be responsible for not only yourself, but the people on the team, the people that's around the area, and the offender. So, man, that's just a lot to take into account. Like I say, whatever's going to go wrong is going to happen. Like I said, that's just how it is. I say you always plan for things to go this way. You want everything to be smoothly, but I guarantee you something's going to go out of place. It might not be big, but it's going to happen. But yeah. People watch TV and they get the misconception that, you can solve a crime in a day or an hour like people do on TV. It doesn't work like that. Even like when you do a search warrant or something like that, you go to somebody's house. I mean, that takes weeks upon weeks or even days of investigation, getting your stuff together, getting the paperwork together before you hit it. And like I said, for that little 2 or 3 minutes that you hit the house, you have a whole bunch of hours you spent trying to get there. And like I tell people, man, it's just something that you got to get used to. You can't look at TV because I've seen people talk, even on calls, they'll be like, okay, well, I've seen when people get fingerprints off of, wet paper and stuff like that, or they get dust for this and that. Like I say, you watch it on TV, that's just not how it works.
Yeah.
You got to understand how it works. But, TV plays a part to a lot of things, and people think, okay, well, if I give you this person, you go ahead, just do a search warrant on the house right now and go get drugs. I say, I can't just take your word for it. I have to do my own investigation. I have to be able to build up probable cause to take to a judge to even get a search warrant. I say, but like I say, that's just how TV is. TV influences a lot of people, and they think that's how things work.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? Especially when you watch. For me, it's hard for me to watch. Like again, even shows I like, I see parts. I'm like, come on, man. There's no way this lady with no top on, no vest is leading a team into these places. So it becomes for people watching, it becomes like this thing. Like, well, I could do that. Like, no, you can't.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I see it all the time, man. Like I say, I was a real big fan of Chicago PD and Law and Order for years. And like I say, once you get into law enforcement, man, you'll be like, yeah, that's not about to happen. I say, that's just not even possible or feasible. But like I say, it's good TV. People watch it. And then some people take it to heart and believe that's just how things go.
Yeah, sad. So for you, let's talk. Well, obviously, you had a lot of martial arts in your background prior to, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I mean that's really helpful, especially for what you do. What's
Oh yeah,
what's one of the more what's more of the nerve-wracking incidents you were involved with, if you had to name one?
I wouldn't say it's nerve-wracking. Just basically about 2 or 3 years ago, one of my lieutenants had arrested a guy for burglary. So he took him out to the office, and basically he was talking to the guy. He was just trying to get more information on it, and then he told me to transport the guy. So I'm getting the guy ready. And it was kind of my fault anyway, because they had the guy handcuffs in the front. So, I'm about to walk out the door with him, and somebody calls my name. So, I turn back around and look. And by that time, I'll hear his handcuffs jiggling. Like, this guy took off full sprint. And as I told you before, I'm a pretty big fella. So, I give chase to him. He jumps a wood fence. I run through the wood fence. He jumps another fence. I run through the fence. And by this time, me being a big guy, we ran about 60 yards. I mean, my train is losing. But I was able to, shout loud enough like, hey, everybody else heard me. So, all the people from my office, they take off running. One of my lieutenants doesn't even have a dog. He's like, well, here comes the dog. I'm looking around thinking like it's a dog coming. He don't even have a dog. And then one of the little guys on our team, man, kind of smaller guy, about 160. All you see is him coming full speed past everybody. I mean, because I'm back there trying to catch my breath, and he eventually catches the guy. Long story short, we took him back in custody. We got him for obstruction, all that stuff. But he was a burglary subject, so I guess he didn't want to go back to prison. So for him taking off on me, almost like the guy that was wanted for prison, well, not wanted for prison, but wanted for burglary, take off on me, and we lost him. But they caught him. So
yeah,
just one of those crazy things that happens.
Yeah, I mean, regardless, it's a criminal's going to be desperate. So if he does get to someone's home and he needs cover, he's going to do whatever it takes.
Oh, yeah. It could turn crazy quickly.
You know what's fun? There's so I had Lenny DePaul on the show. He's a former Secret Service, former U.S. Marshal. He had a show that he was on called Manhunters, Fugitive Task Force, back in like the 08, 09. And, these are like some of the best law enforcement people from around the country that come to this task force to go, arrest dangerous fugitives. And so I was a big fan of that show. When I had Lenny on, it was a big deal for me because I love that dude, right? Him and Pepper was my other guy. Pepper was my dude, right? So anyway, I'm watching this show and I'm thinking, you know who the bravest person in that show is? And like people always ask, well, it's got to be that cop. He's knocking the door. I'm like, no, it's the camera guy. Like he's not taking cover at all. He is right in the dead center of it all. And there was one episode in particular where they're chasing this guy on foot, and that's what you made me think about it. And they're running for this dude, and the camera guy's keeping pace with him the whole time. I was like,
oh yeah,
good for that guy, man. I mean, I wonder what his waivers got to be like.
I mean, it got to be crazy, man. Some of the stuff that they get into. I mean, some of the stuff is for TV, but a lot of stuff is kind of real. And man, being a cameraman, man, you just out there.
Yeah,
people don't like cameras in their face anyway. So
you need to. Have you watched that show, Manhunters?
I believe I have. If this one of the U.S. Marshals when they're like in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I watched a couple of episodes of that.
Yeah, that was a great show. Lenny DePaul, man, that guy, like, he plays the role well. Like, he's in that role well, and he's got a lot of respect from his officers. But the people they're going after, and again, not to remind people of this defund police thing, who else goes after these people if not law enforcement? Right? You're talking about murderers.
Yeah, and like I said, a lot of people, like I said, they just don't feel the need for them, but they don't understand, like, they don't need these people until they need them. Like, say, you don't think too much about the U.S. Marshals or DEA or stuff until stuff directly affects you. Now, if you ain't never had somebody in your family murdered or, raped or robbed or something like that, you're going to be like, okay, man, why they out here chasing these people? But until that stuff happens to you and you want them to go to jail and pay for the crimes, then you understand the importance of it. Like I said, man, there's a lot of people, times people might commit a serious crime or felony and they get away and they're not able to, be caught because, they might leave the state, leave the area, and, just most time the sheriff office don't have the resources or the manpower to go out there and find them like they can. And that's when you turn the case over to these different agencies like DEA or U.S. Marshals. They have the resources. They go find these people.
Yeah. And, like for you, you're in a small community. Brett Preston is another officer I'm in communication with on LinkedIn. He's in this the town of Sneed's Police Department. It's another small community, but they're needed. So if you remove you and Brett Preston and other officers of the law that are in these small, or even defund them and have like one or two guys, you know who's going to suffer is the community, because opportunists are going to see that and they're going to go right to those communities and set up shop. They're going to realize there's no presence there of law enforcement. They're going to feel like they could just pull away whatever they want.
Yeah, and that's what like a lot of these places that have tried to defund the police and have done so. You can see the lawlessness that's around it. They just feel like they could do whatever they want. Like I've seen videos of just people just going to convenience stores or clothing stores and just grab as many clothes and shoes and TVs as they want and just walk out. But they know the officers can't chase them. They can't do anything to them, or it's going to be just like a petty crime. Like I say, you got to hold people responsible for the crimes to commit. If not, they're going to keep committing. And that's why I keep telling people, like, yeah, you might lock somebody up for selling drugs, for stealing, shoplifting, all that stuff. But if they're not being held accountable through the court system, or people are dropping their charges, then they feel like, well, okay, man, I can keep doing it.
Right.
And that's one of the things I have, like I said, I work inside the juvenile justice system. I don't believe every juvenile deserves to be punished, but the ones that do need to be punished, you got to punish them severely. Like I say, if they feel like I don't get away with it now, I can get away with it older. And like I say, you just have that process, build a bit of mindset that, okay, if you do something bad, there's consequences to it. And then people just get like, okay, well, nothing happened before, I can do it again. And then it's just that circle, that revolving door that people have.
Yeah, it's scary. I was watching the same videos you're talking about. There's people with so they don't get hit with grand larceny or the larger charge. They're walking around with calculators, figuring out what they could take. And And that should tell people, like, if you think that's okay and you're going to let it slide, that's going to become a bigger problem, because other opportunists are going to say, well, now we could do this to multiple stores and then turn around and sell the merchandise. I mean, and then it becomes a real issue. And, you know, you can't back law enforcement. Look, did some things happen with cops that were shitty? Sure. There's bad everybody. I've said this a lot of times on the show. There was a nurse who was a serial killer. There's a doctor who's killed people. There's a librarian, and, like, you know, dangerous people exist in everything. It's pure. It's just, we're humans. It's what we do. But people like you and some other officers, you know, you're the pillar. You're the person we need, and especially with the amount of training you have. Right? It's good to. I firmly believe it's good to have a lot of martial arts in the background, because you could learn to hold someone better. Right? You could hold them down without, you know, without it being fatal anyway. And so, rather than defund police, and I say this a lot, and I catch hell for it, but I think you increase funds. You create more incentives. You pay them better. You know, give them better training, go through a better screening process, whatever you got to do, but don't defund. That's the craziest thing anyone's ever said. We're seeing the effects of this, and it scares me.
Yes, sir. And like I say, just like what you said, increasing the pay, getting officers, you know, incentives for training. Like I say, most officers don't get in law enforcement for the pay. Like I say, that's just how it is. True. Especially if you come down south. I mean, I say we get paid pretty well in my agency, but you just know for the things that you do, most people wouldn't even take less than half of what we're taking. So, I mean, that's just one of the things. But increasing the pay, then you can hold people a little bit higher. You expect better quality. But, you know, I know some places where officers, you know, it might be one or two people in the county or the city getting paid $19 an hour. You're expecting them to give their all? I said, that's just crazy. I say, especially when you're calling them from every little thing. That's what people don't understand. Like I said, most of the incidents that happen, and yeah, officers sometimes out of, you know, not the way they're supposed to, or do bad officers. But sometimes, well, most times we're called there. We don't just approach people. Like, you call us to come deal with your child because you can't deal with it. We can't get them dressed for school. Like I say, people call us for different things like that. And these are things that officers should even have to deal with. Like, you have a 7-year-old child that's acting up, crying. He won't do right, but you want us to come over there and try to intimidate them. And then when they get out of hand, then things go south and the parents get mad at us. Like I said, we're just here trying to do what you told us to do.
Right. You know,
I say, and that's where the snowball affects.
The two people in the community who we need most are paid the least in most cases, right? Like, we need police. They protect us from insanity, right? You literally walk into fire where other people, like, I was talking to Cloyd Steiger about this. He's a homicide detective. Most officers get up and there's that large chance that something goes south, whether it be a great neighborhood or the inner city. You never know what's going to happen that day. So, and then the other person that should be getting paid more are the people who are supposed to be preventative in this, is our educators, our teachers. So you want the people that protect us and the people that educate us to work harder for less money. And then you have some other people that make 6 figures and they're in corporate America. Granted, you worked hard to get where you are. Great. Glad to hear it. But it's an irresponsible thing to say things like, well, you know, the police need to be held accountable. Well, you know, give them more money. Let them get better training. Let them get help. The kids are out of control of school and my kids aren't learning. It's because the teachers are overwhelmed and they're underpaid. These are two citizens that we need the most, and they're treated the worst. It's crazy.
Yeah, like I said, I worked in schools, so I know how bad it is with teachers, and I feel sorry for them because, you know, they try the best to teach kids, and they say you're going to have 15, 20 kids in there. Like I say, 15 of them are going to be good, but you're going to have that 5 that's behind distracting, and you got to deal with those 5. Like, you're taking away from the other kids, but you got to deal with them constantly. And like I say, it's just that revolving door. Like, they don't want you to kick the kids out too much because they're going to miss too much learning time. But then you got to try to, you know, protect the integrity of the class and keep everybody learning. And like I said, it's just a hard thing to do. And like I say, not all classrooms are bad, but I've been to some, you know, schools and some classrooms, man. Kids are just outrageous, man. I'd say they either want to fight, want to disrupt the class, you know, want to cuss and do different things. They don't want to listen to adults. And like I said, a lot of times they come from home. Like I say, they feel like the parents not gonna hold them responsible, that you can't hold responsible, and that's where the issue comes.
Yep.
Like I said, I can't tell you what your parents gonna tell you to do, what they can't tell you not to do. But I said, you're gonna have to listen to us when we come into play. Like I said, we are giving you commands that you need to do something. And then be like, well, my parents, and you hear all the time, my parents don't talk to me that way, or they don't make me do this and that. I'm not gonna do it. And like I said, that's when that issue comes in hand. And like I said, that's where teachers come in, then they call us. And like I say, it's just that revolving door. Like I say, okay, well, this person won't get out of the classroom. They want us to teacher. They call the principal. The principal can't get them out of the classroom. But, they kind of hands are kind of tied. They can't, put their hands on the kid to get them out of the classroom. Then we come, and we got to escort the kids out of there. Then, like I say, it's just that snowball effect. And like I said, now a lot of stuff starts off from the house.
Yeah.
Like I say, you got to control these kids from when they're younger. So once they get older, they'll be more respectful. I'm not telling them to take crap from somebody, adult that's verbally abusive or, that's doing things wrong. But most of these teachers are just trying to help you, trying to get you to pass this grade so you can be productive citizens. But a lot of kids just want to come to school for either a fashion show, they just want to be bad. And like I said, some kids just come from bad homes, but a lot of them just don't even have a reason to be acting the way they do, and they still do it.
Agreed. Listen to a couple parts of that. One, my favorite actor of all time, Denzel Washington. He says it starts in a home. He's just to what you just said. That's it. Denzel said that exact quote. It starts in a home. And if you're having trouble controlling it at home, then there's programs. There's something out there that's going to help you, or the parent, help the child, right? Or some kids are just bad. Like, listen, you don't have to have a broken home or bad parents to be a jerk. I was an asshole when I was a kid. I actually apologized. No, it's all good. I caught it as it went. But I was saying, as a kid, I was a bit of an asshole as a kid. I was a jerk. Mm-hmm. And, my parents, my father worked full time pretty hard. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. So it wasn't like they were bad people. I had it in my blood to be a little jerk. It's when you grow up and you realize what it is. Like I said this to Cloyd Steiger and a number of other cops I'd spoken to. I had problems with the cops when I was a kid. It's because I was an idiot. But I was respectful. And in hindsight, you grow up a little bit and you realize what you're doing. You change. Just like you in the beginning when you were becoming a cop. You had to mature a little bit more and then come back to the game, right? So much so that I apologized to a teacher some years ago. I tracked her down, Miss Schaefer. I was like, look, I was really sorry. I don't know why I acted that way or behaved that way. And you know what she told me? It's okay. You were a child. You were misguided. And, but ultimately you figured it out. Somehow you figured it out. That's not the case for everyone, right?
No, some kids, and that's why I always tell people it's like a catch-22. Like I say, just work from the school system. You understand that some of these kids come from horrible conditions. Their parents are verbally and mentally abusive to them. And like I said, they come out to school and they act out. But then you have some kids, they're just bad naturally. And sometimes it takes a little from them getting in trouble to do a little bit better. Like I say, man, when I first went to school, I went off to a private school. I say it was a school run by the church I went to. And I say we had teachers and principals that if you acted up, they whooped you. That's just how it was. They'll put out a paddle, put out a belt, they whooped you. I say you knew. Okay, well, if I don't want that to happen again, I'm not going to, try them like that. And then I went to a public school, and it was just a new world for me. Like, man, it was just a night and day difference from the private school to the public school. I mean, kids were different, teachers were different, and man, I'd say it took me a while to get adjusted. Like I said, I was pretty bad back then. Like I wasn't one of those bad kids that fought and all that stuff. But I said I just couldn't control myself. Like I said, I always wanted to talk. I just had this attitude about myself. And like I said, my mother was one of the people that just didn't play. You get in trouble, she's gonna whip you. And I said she was real good with a stitcher cord. And like I say, after a while, you'll learn. Okay, well, I'm gonna stop doing this. I say it took me a good couple of years to get myself together, but eventually I did. I say about my 7th grade year after I went to alternative school, learned at the regular school, I learned and said, okay, you don't want to get kicked back. You don't want to be labeled one of the problem children. Get your act together. And I say it takes a while. Some kids need a little bit more work than others. And like I say, that's just where that catch-22 comes in with teachers. Like I say, you got to control your classroom. But you want to give some of the kids, you got to give a little extra attention because, like I say, they need it. But then you just have that bad element in some kids that just want to control the classroom and disrupt it. So, like I say, it's just a catch-22, and that's why teachers need to be paid more because, I mean, they're dealing with so many different personalities at one time, it can become crazy.
Yeah, agreed. Because I could only imagine how many teachers like, I don't get paid enough to deal with these kids, man.
Oh yeah, you see it all the time, man. I say it's crazy, but a lot of times also teachers, they take from their own pockets, from their own family, to buy supplies and also for kids. And a lot of people don't see that. That's why I say, man, you just got to keep your hands to them and increase their pay because man, we need them. You need somebody to teach your kids. You want them to be productive citizens, and you want the best people to teach them.
Yeah, I knew a teacher like that when I was in grade school. I lived in Brooklyn. I had a teacher, Mrs. Kugumas. And she used to bring snacks for the kids on her own dime, right? As incentive to do things right. She was my favorite teacher, by the way, not just because of the rewards and the snacks, but she knew how to speak to you at your level. So she acclimated to the student. That being said, it's tough because I can't imagine her getting paid very well in the public school system in Brooklyn, right? So she really cared she wanted to be a teacher, just like you want to be a cop, and you're needed. And I can't express that enough. Like, I try to picture a world with no law enforcement. It's defunded, and the presence is less. I try to see what that world looks like, and I got to tell you, that's a grim sight. I know this because in my life, I grew up around the opportunists and the jerks and the scumbags. I've seen them. I see how they behave and how they think. And it's real fact that wherever they know that law enforcement is the least to be is where they're going to set up. And that can be said to anywhere. No one's safe. Without law enforcement, no one's safe. Opportunists will move to your neighborhood fast. And that's being seen on the other coast of the country right now. Like you were saying, people are like, stores are being robbed, calculated. Right? They're calculating how much to rob to keep it under a certain amount so they don't get a greater charge. It's insane. So.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, man, that's why I tell people, man, it's just, there's so many crimes going on now that people just don't see, or, they're not affected by that. It's just crazy. Like I said, man, like in Atlanta, it's real big for people to steal cars, put a different VIN number on it, and just drive around. Damn. You'll never know it's a stolen car. Like I said, because it has a VIN number that matches the car. Things like that are happening around. You have people that put these, scanners on gas and all that stuff. Identity theft, took your credit card, and you won't know until months down the road. And that's one of the hardest things to recover from, if somebody steals your identity or gets one of your credit cards and you don't know about it. You got to fight that battle. Like I said, man, it's just crimes going. People are just doing things differently. Like I said, man, it used to be like either they're going to rob you, shoot you, do stuff like that. But man, people have become smart. It's become a business. And, things like this is just out of control. Like I said, man, you might see the big bus all the time where officer might stop somebody and get a couple of pounds of marijuana, a couple of kilos of cocaine and stuff, and people think, okay, well, the war on drugs, I said that didn't put dent into most of those organizations. They don't even remember that. They're like, okay, they're talking to the gang. Like, it's just crazy how crime is now. And like I say, I think about it, man. You got to have almost a specialist in almost every sector of crime now, because you got to have somebody that's, specialist in Facebook crimes. But, people getting scammed off Facebook.
Yep.
It's just how it is, man. They'll get your whole identity off of Facebook, and then, like I said, they'll run your credit cards and different things like that. You go to a store, and people rob you. So, man, it's just pretty crazy.
And those Facebook con artists, they're good, man. Like, listen, I've had messages on Facebook, and because your whole life is pretty much displayed there, so they know how to speak to you. They know what you like, and they tailor what it is that you want to hear. To get, and I've had this happen where a young, I'm not going to say lady, I don't know who it was mentioning about a pool cue that I really wanted to get because I shoot pool. And so it was a pretty nice cue for a really low price. And so I was like, wow, that's a really good deal. And then I had to stop and think, why would you sell that for almost $500 less than what it goes for? And then even more, why would you pick me? And that's what, so it took that moment that moment for me to figure it out. I messaged the person, like, look, man, I'm not interested, and thank you. And then the next day I went to go look who the person is, or like maybe report or whatever, gone. The whole account gone. So that's a prime example. And like you said, every time law enforcement comes with a good idea to prevent crime, criminals come with a brand new way to make crime. They have think tanks. So it's
yes, it's just different.
I mean, imagine a world without law enforcement and these people. Like, there's some really intelligent criminals out there, and you have to match them with really intelligent people in law enforcement, and it works its way up because cops on the beat that are starting out versus the guy at the top of the hill who's an intelligent investigator / a detective. They have to work in conjunction together, right? They have to be in concert. Or else it's not going to be easy to deal with criminals. Criminals, their whole existence is to find ways to slip through. And so that's why I don't know if you saw this, but it's about a year ago. I saw this lady on TV saying, oh, we just need to defund the police. This is out of control. I'm watching this woman rant. And all I can think in my head is like, well, what happens if the criminals come to your neighborhood? And it's the same answer every time, for me. It's like, you're in trouble. You're going to be in trouble. So I don't know. What do you want to? I'm sorry, go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, like I said, as far as your point is, being a senior investigator or senior officer, and training a young officer. Like I said, I was just fortunate enough to be around other officers that had the will and that wanted to teach other officers that were younger to be better officers. And like I say, I don't know if you know this guy, but his name is Dennis Benino. He has a law enforcement training group called Police Street Cop Training. And basically what he does is, man, like I said, he was a law enforcement officer for a good little minute. But basically what he does is he's bringing real life training to these different officers, either whether it's online or to the city. And just for me in general, like for me, he's made my career just 10 times better. Like I say, a lot of times, officers don't be able to get the training that they need, budgets, just different other reasons. But he's one of the people that have helped influence my career and helped me progress. Like I said, man, he teaches so many different things. And like I say, you just gotta have those type of people that have that willing heart to teach others because they want to see people succeed at what to do. And like I say, you want to see other officers succeed because, you want crime, to be under control. You never stop it, but you need to have those people in place that are willing to take time to teach the younger officers to help them get up to par. So when they encounter these different things that they never encountered, they can handle it correctly. So,
yeah. What was his name again?
Dennis Benino. He's actually on my LinkedIn, but he has a company. I'll probably send you a link once we get finished talking, called Street Cop Training. Basically, like I say, he has like a group with over 100,000 officers that follow him. And basically, like I said, man, he's just been one of those people, man. He started off small off Facebook, and man, it's turned into a huge thing. Like I said, man, he has about 15, 20 instructors under him now that teach different specialties for law enforcement to help us become better at what we do. And like I said, man, I can't say enough about his company. Like I say, he puts on some of the best training that I know of as far as law enforcement. And that's why I try to tell each officer that I meet somebody different. Hey, whether you're young, old, in between, look this guy up, look up his company, look at the videos, because he has videos on Facebook that you can look at for free. And then you can join the private group of law enforcement and just to see the things that he puts out. Like I say, it's going to open your eyes to a different world, some things that you just don't pay attention to. And he helped me out tremendously in my career. Like I say, I started off in crime suppression. By him helping me, I ended up becoming the Special Operations Deputy of the Year just by some of the cases I made. And like I say, he took hours with me of just going through my traffic stop videos, working on me slowing down, talking to people, just trying to get a better grasp of being a better law enforcement officer. And that's why I think almost every officer I know should at least attend his training at least once.
I'll link that in the description for certain. I'm going to look him up too. I might get him on. Two sides to that though. Great program he has. He's a great person for having it, but it takes for you wanted to learn it. You applied it to yourself. You put yourself out there to do it. And that's my hat's off to you. That's powerful.
Oh yeah. And that's what I tell, and that's one thing he told me. He's like, sometimes your department won't pay for the training. They won't give you hours. He said, sometimes you just got to take your own time. You got to take your vacation day. You got to take your own penny. I said, you want to become better at your craft. And like I said, eventually it'll pay off. You got to do that. And that's why I tell officers, like I said, man, me, I wanted to be on crime suppression when I was on road patrol. So on my days off or when I didn't have anything to do when I was on road patrol, I went near these guys. If they need me to fill out paperwork, take my jail, that's what I did. I became students of them at their feet. And I say, well, you want to become better at something, if you want to become a better law enforcement officer, you seek out training to help you become a better one. And I say he's one of those people that will help you become a better law enforcement officer.
You have the hallmarks of a great officer in every respect. I mean, I applaud you. It sounds to me like you're driven to do great things and probably greater things. Where do you want to go from here?
Well, obviously, like I said, I just want to be a good law enforcement officer, but I just want to go somewhere and handle big cases. Like I said, I've been on the investigative side, I've been on the road patrol side. Basically, I just want to go somewhere I can make a difference. Like I said, I'm just a person, like I say, I want to be the best at what I do. So whether that's being an investigator or being on road patrol, I want to be the best. But like I say, my sheriff always told me, he said, man, you got your bachelor's degree, you got your master's degree, try to go state or federal, see if you can help out on that side. He said, then you can kind of conjoin with the local law enforcement, help teach them or help, solve cases for them. So that's one of the other things I want to do. And then also, like I say, I recently just got my instructor certification for the state of Georgia. And that's another big thing is teaching, recruits about the road and about things they need to pay attention to help prevent them from getting hurt on the job. I say that's my second passion is being an instructor. I say either in the academy or either I want to become an adjunct instructor at a college, maybe a community college or who knows, a university and teach basic law enforcement and just basically get people inspired. But, most time instructors, necessarily in the college level, they're sometimes not people that's never been in this field. They just took, the courses, so they don't kind of understand. And I feel like I can bring a more realistic view to the criminal justice system if I become an instructor like that.
Yeah, I would agree, and that's needed too. You remind me of David Havens, a guy he's a Navy SEAL who's on the show, You have that, coach, give me the ball. You have that attitude. I'm going to, whatever it takes for me to succeed, I want to do that. That's a good thing to have. I think whatever you want to do, you'll do. Personally, that's what I think. I mean, you have that attitude. It's a good attitude to have. And that approach that's a needed one, because there has to be reality checks in training. I agree with that. You can't train somebody by a manual and follow the book left to right. So that when you're out there in the street or in a neighborhood or in a case, the criminals don't have a handbook that goes from left to right. You know what I mean? They're going to ad lib. And so to have a realistic approach, I think that's needed. And I think you should definitely push for that.
Yeah, and like I said, my sheriff was actually an instructor, and he still is a good one. And like I said, man, he just bring that real life experience, gives people a better perspective of what they're doing. And don't get me wrong, I mean, it's a place for all of those instructors. Some of the ones that haven't been in law enforcement side, they'll still keep that bias. But like I said, as law enforcement officer, you're gonna be biased to certain things. You can be like, okay, they should have, did this and that. That's just part of being law enforcement. You got to have both sides. But I think having that realistic teacher that can teach the information that they need, and also add a side note and be like, okay, I've been in this situation and things don't always go as planned. And then you can get real life examples and show real life videos, and then you might save that one student from going into that situation thinking that it's just going to happen this way, and you might save them from getting hurt or killed.
Yeah, that's a good point, because people they train the books, they learn the narrative, they go get the job, and they're like, wow, I don't remember learning any of this. It's a completely different experience than when I was learning. And I hear that a lot from a lot of different career paths. I don't know. Have you considered maybe getting into Marshal service?
You talking U.S. Marshals?
U.S. Marshals.
I thought about it. Actually, I'm a pretty big boy. I'd say I've been working on trying to go federal, but like I say, they have like these PT standards. Like say, I don't get me wrong, I don't mind running, but like running a mile and a half in like 12 minutes or less is pretty rough for me.
Right.
I'm working on it, but Eric likes to eat, and that's one thing I get to control for that. I'm gonna eat a biscuit and that's all that. But yes, that's one of the things that's on my list, to either go state or federal. Like I say, I've always told people I'm going to work. I've always been like that. Like even when COVID was going on, and my supervisors and division commanders told me, like, okay, man, you need to slow down. COVID's going on. You don't want to get people sick. I'm going to work. That's just how I am. I can't sit still. I have this obsession. I'm not saying try to be the best, but I want to put good quality things out there. And that's always how I learn. That's always how I feel like I succeeded. Like I told you before, I went to instructor school and passed this time. This is my third time going. Like I say, I've been twice. It's one of the hardest classes I've ever taken, but it's something I want to do. I was going to do it. I wanted to get on cross suppression and be one of the best people on there. That's what I did. I seeked outside training, and I became the best. So that's just one of those things about it. I know what goals I want to be. I want to be either state or federal special agent. I'm working towards it. It might take me a little while, but I'm going to make sure I'll make it happen.
No, I think it's going to happen, man. I'm telling you now, you have that, coach, give me the ball. You have that. And when I hear that in people, everyone I've ever met in life, before podcast, not even related, anyone that has that attitude, they get what they want. They go where they want to go. That's the only thing preventing them is probably some weird circumstance, and then usually themselves, right? They take their foot off the gas. I don't get that from you, so.
Yeah, that's one thing I learned. Like I say, talking to one of the guys that I work with, man, he said, man, most time your biggest obstacle is going to be yourself. I say most time you're going to talk yourself out of something. You're going to get thinking about all the things that could happen instead of focusing on your goal. And a lot of times that's just what happens. Like I said, I was just doing it to myself. And I'm like, well, okay, I don't like running all stuff. Basically, give myself an excuse out instead of just saying, okay, I'm just going to make it happen. So a lot of times, like I said, it's just a middle thing. You end up talking yourself out of something, or either you try to put up obstacles, just in case you don't make it, you have an excuse. I'd say no matter what you want to do, it's no excuse. You can make it happen. You just got to make sure you have your head on straight and you're willing to do what needs to be done to make it happen.
Agreed. I mean, you lost 50 pounds. I know people are struggling with 10. So.
Yeah, it happened, man. Actually, man, I did that keto diet, man. It worked for a little bit, but man, like I said, my mother and then my wife, they love to cook. And like I said, man, they make these big meals. And like I say, the food be so good. And I said, when I eat, I'm not going to eat a small portion. That's just how I am. I'm going to make sure I'm good and full when I eat. And like I say, it's one of those things I got to learn how to control myself.
I have a guy that comes on the show frequently. His name's Alfie Crescentini. He's a chef. I've known him for years. And he had a heart attack, and he had to change his diet, and he dropped some significant weight. And so I speak to him about diets all the time. And, same for me. It's like, I could do really well, but I have these cravings for things that I've had. Like pizza is my weakness. And it's not easy. And so for you to drop 50 pounds, man, that's not done with, I'll try it out this week. That's discipline. And that's
it took about a year to do it. But like I told people, I said, I've always been big into working out and lifting weights and training. Like I said, I was brought up around it from wrestling to football to karate and all stuff. I've always been big on it. Like I said, I'm really big into weightlifting and all stuff. But like I said, I always tell myself, you can be this much better if you say discipline and do what you need to do. Like I say, man, I'm getting back into powerlifting. And like I said, I have a good coach and all that stuff. But if I stay disciplined to everything, as far as my diet and everything else, I just know I can be a lot better than where I'm at. But some people can diet. Some people can, think about, okay, well, I'm not going to eat sugar. I'm not going to have any bread for a whole month. Like I said, I eat with most of the guys I eat with, they're big guys. Like I said, I see you eat the burger. I'm like, okay, man, I'm not going to eat it. By the time I look at that salad, look at that burger, I'm like, okay, I'm back up there ordering me a burger. It's just all about self-control.
Yeah, I agree, man. And that's a big percentage of it, man. So, I mean, it sounds like you surround yourself with good people, which is another good thing. Again, you had a great mentor, Sheriff's good. That's important because I think you're good at recognizing who you need around you, which is that's another big thing for people. I've had friends in my life that they walk that path of like, I kind of want to be a jerk or whatever. And even though I recognize they're still my friend, but at some point you have to recognize that you have to separate a little bit because you want to take that next step to do something greater. And you've done that. You've done that. I fully believe whatever you want to do, you're going to do it. I believe it.
Yes, I appreciate it. But yeah, like I said, peer pressure is a bad thing. That's why I say you got to make sure you hang around the right people. Like I said, I grew up in martial arts, but one of the guys that I trained with, my sensei, Bobby Williams, his father was the Grand Master. His name was Hiram Williams. He passed away back in 2011. But anyway, man, he was in my life for about 4 or 5 years. But the lessons that he taught me, man, like I said, they stayed with me my whole life. And like I said, he was an Archbishop too. But if you ever seen the guy, he's about 5'7", 5'8", maybe 5'10", but he's a stocky guy. But he had long dreads that came to his back. He had gray eyes. And he was just one of those people that when he walked the room, people just stopped what they're doing because they just wanted to hear what he had to say. He just had that thing about him.
Yeah.
But he always told me, he said, I'm a brass person. I'm gonna say what needs to be said. He said, I'm not gonna hold back for anybody. I'm gonna tell you what needs to be done, and you need to do it. And he's been like that with us. And I say, I look back at it now, he was teaching me and my cousin lessons. Basically, he'd have us out there. He had about 8 cars. He'd have us wash all of them. He told us, he said, you do right by me, I'll do right by you. And he said, if you come out here basically and have to do these cars, I'm not gonna do right by you. And like I said, we wasn't expecting money, but if we did the cars right the way he wanted to back him out, he'll reward us. He was like that all the time with food service. He said, if you treat me right, take care of me, I'm going to take care of you. After I've said, there's been times we go to Applebee's, might get $40 combined with all of us. If the waiter was good, he's giving these people $300-$400, but he's always said, if you're blessed, be a blessing to others. And like I say, that's just how he lived his life. But even as far as martial arts, he was old school. He told us, he said, man, all that new school stuff, people talking about they can't do this, can't do that. We're not going to do that. He put us in the horse stance. He said, you stay there until I get tired. He's not even doing it. You're not going to get tired until he's tired. Like I said, man, he just trained us like that. And one of the biggest lessons he always told us, man, and that's where I get my winning mindset from is if you don't win, you don't eat. He told us that. He said, if you don't win these matches, you're not going to eat. I like to eat. What we do, we're going to go out there and win. That's just how it's always been.
That's strong. Yeah. I mean, it's powerful incentive. That's a mental incentive. Who is really good at being really good at giving himself mental incentives? Michael Jordan. Did you ever watch that Netflix documentary, The Last Dance?
Oh yeah, I watched it. Yeah.
Man, that dude made up shit just so he could fight harder. I mean,
oh, yeah.
If you looked at him the wrong way, if you looked at him the wrong way, there was one episode and I didn't notice about him. He was sick. He had food poisoning, and he went somewhere mentally and he got out there and won. So for me, when I watch that, I'm like, God, there's just no excuses. I can't make excuses when I see shit like that. It's not about his fame, fortune, or his shoes. It's what he did in moments where it's needed. He dug deep, and that's where when you dig deep, I have to learn to dig deep like that, right? After watching that documentary, I said to myself, like, this guy went to his mind and created reasons to win. And just like the martial arts instructor, if you don't win, you don't eat. And that's strong because it gives you that motivation to do whatever you have to do. So I applaud that.
It gives you that focus you need. That's why I try to tell people, man, I was saying earlier, I say it's all about mindset. Like I say, most people, I say they defeat themselves before they get defeated in a race or whatever they're doing in life. Like I say, they always say it. I hear all the time people are applying for jobs or they're applying for promotion. I'm going to apply, but, I'm probably not going to get it. You got to get that stuff out your mindset. You see yourself making it. You see yourself beating out everybody else. You make it happen. And I said, that's just one of the things that you got to keep on. Like I said, man, it's going to be a constant battle. I said, it happens all the time. And like I said, my partner, Cedric Woods, he put me on this movie and this book called The Secret. And like I said, man, it's helped me tremendously. And like I said, I got to watch it every couple of weeks just to keep my mind together. Because like, you had to keep your mind's just like any other muscle. You got to keep, exercising to keep it going. So focusing on the positive has helped me out tremendously. But I say, I'm not one of those people that's always been a negative Nancy. I'm not going to focus on negatives, but sometimes I can doubt myself. And I say, when you start doubting yourself, you leave that opportunity for it to come in. And a lot of times you're going to, manifest it. So that's why I tell people, look at these different motivation videos of people that's been through these problems. They had keen focus on what they want to do. They didn't want to live in poverty their whole life. They didn't want to work at McDonald's their whole life. They focused on what they needed to do and they made it happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like motivational stuff too. I'm big into that. Like, again, I talked about him earlier. Denzel Washington, one of my favorite actors all time. Mm-hmm. And I watched this maybe a couple of years ago, during COVID anyway, and I didn't realize he made like speeches publicly. I listened to one of his speeches, and I emerged from that with a new train of thought. I'm like, wow, this again, it's another person expressing like, if you really want to do it, you got to go do it. You can't sit around wondering. You can't, and if you cast doubt, what happens there is that doubt lingers in your mind, and it where the energy moving forward is great will be reduced because you have that little bit of doubt lingering. So I agree with all of that. And you surrounded yourself with pretty good people in your life, man. Again, not to blow the horn again, but I think you're going to do whatever you want to do. Personally, I imagine I'm going to watch it happen. I'm going to stay in contact with you.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Yeah, like I said, man, you just got to have people that's going to motivate you and you motivate them. Like I said, as far as the motivation videos that he's talking about, man, like I said, man, I was looking on YouTube just for motivation stuff, and I found a guy named Les Brown. Man, his motivation videos, they just keep you on your toes, man. He talks about you got to stay hungry. And like I said, that's one of the things about it. Like, man, you want something to happen, you got to stay hungry for it to happen. And when you're hungry for something, you're going to keep working until you make it happen. Like I said, you're hungry. And like I said, man, that's just one of those things, man. You got to keep that positive mindset so you can keep going forward.
You hear that from a lot of boxers too, that they lose the hunger to win, right? They become complacent. And that's usually the beginning of a decline. So yeah, I agree with that too.
That's what complacency kills.
I agree. Well, Eric, we hit it. We're going to do this again. I'm glad you came on. I'm glad you gave me your time. I really appreciate it.
Yes, I appreciate it. I enjoyed the conversation. Like I tell people, I say nothing better than a stimulating conversation between two people.
Agreed. And and that's what a podcast is, a good conversation people get to eavesdrop on. Right. So
yes, sir. Pretty much. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, I'm going to say good day to whoever's listening. I'm going to talk to Eric in post, and Eric, say goodbye to everyone.
All right. Everyone have a good time. Y'all be safe.